Imagine
A podcast.
where time drifts slowly,
A podcast.
where
Isaac.
carries you away.
So let me be clear. We tortured some folks.
First, I'd like to apologize for the mic quality. I'm speaking into my phone right now because I'm in Los Angeles and I managed to lose my microphone I brought specifically to record an episode. And so since I don't have the high quality episode, I'm going to be unlocking a previous episode from July, one that I'm particularly proud of. And I'd like to apologize again to my paid subscribers because I know that this episode is just supposed to be for you guys. Don't be greedy. I will have something for you guys very soon. I promise. It's going to be a good one. For this episode, which came out in July, the first half was about the Biden debates with Trump. And I guess a lot has changed, but not really. Because re-listening to it, I realized that it was still quite relevant in that Kamala's campaign strategy for the past few months has been to Buffalo Bill Biden's skin suit.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
And just run as Biden 2.0. And that's why if you're seeing in the polls that Kamala's suffering, you'd be right. So I took out the Biden stuff just because I hate a lot of the things I do in general, and this one, it wasn't bad, but I still hated it. I am leaving in the portions about the migrant crisis because it's relevant to the bigger part of the episode, which I am actually proud of, so I think that means it's actually good, if I still think it's good, about how bananas helped create the state of Israel. Now, when I posted on Instagram to promote this episode, it became one of my more successful Instagram posts. And it wasn't on merit alone. A lot of it was because I got a lot of Nazis who picked up on it. And that's always disappointing. And in fact, I had to edit the description of the post and say, FYI, I am a Jew. You're liking a Jew's post. I find myself frequently battling against this rising tide of anti-Semitism. And it's unpleasant, to say the least. And I don't know. I find myself in the funny position of being Jewish-ish and trying to criticize this thing that I've identified with for most of my life and simultaneously defend it because I love Jews. I love a lot of Jews in my life. The wedding I was just at was a Jewish wedding. It was beautiful. I loved it. And I loved all the people who were there. I love Jewish humor. I love Jewish art. I love Jewish musicians. Israel has effectively ruined a lot of that for me personally. A lot of people that I otherwise, whose work I loved, I've had to put an asterisk by them. Even the great Larry David is more likely than not a Zionist. Or at least that's sort of like, we need a smidgen of a homeland kind of shtick. I don't know. But if you haven't noticed, anti-Semitism is quite popular right now. And not the kind that makes Jews afraid to go out in public. Any Jew who tells you they feel unsafe in America is lying to you. I don't believe that for a single second. And also, my sympathy reservoirs are reserved for Palestinians by and large. So yeah, if you got bullied for wearing your kippah outside, I don't give a shit. But what you are seeing is, especially on Twitter, which Okay, I think I said this in the last episode, but I'm going to hammer it at it again. Anti-Semitism is probably a Zionist psychological operation. I think that Israel wants there to be a global anti-Semitic timbre. And I say this because Elon Musk, who bought Twitter, a couple of years ago now, is the worst violator or the most horrendous offender in this regard. Like, the anti-Semitism on Twitter is fucking crazy. And Elon Musk is tight with the Zionist government. If you don't remember, that long ago, he visited Auschwitz with Netanyahu. He put his son, who he probably sees like once a year, and that was the one time he got to see him, he brought him to Auschwitz and put him on his shoulders and stood next to fucking Ben Shapiro and Benjamin Netanyahu. So Elon Musk, who's turning the dial over there at Twitter, absolutely is turning the anti-Semitism meter on fucking 11. Why? Why would he be doing that? If he was so tight with Israel, they'd be like, hey, man, would you tone it down? Like, you're making it unsafe for Jews in the near future. No. They want it up. I think that they get that little bit of cover still. If there's people who are defending Hitler, which I'm seeing a lot of, there was that one poll that said that 1 out of every 5 Zoomers thought Hitler had, quote, some good ideas, if you believe polls. I've also seen certain figures retconning Hitler. My favorite example I saw of this recently was this guy, Myron Gaines. He hosts some terrible misogynist, racist podcast. And this is what he says in a recent tweet. I'm no fan of Hitler, but you're wrong. Hitler had many Jewish commanders and generals in his military. This whole Hitler hated the Jews is nonsense. He hated degeneracy and central banking that caused Germany massive debt after World War I. It just so happened Jews ran the government, banks, and porn industry when he came into power in 1933, all the things he opposed. So he created the Havara Agreement and let them peacefully leave Germany with all their money and possessions intact. Learn your history before making false claims. They're rehabilitating Hitler. They're retconning and revising the Havara Agreement. I find myself in the position of having to explain that Jews aren't inherently evil to people. So with that prefacing what you're about to listen to, Jews have been naughty. I don't mean to joke or diminish this, but it is a fact that powerful Jews in recent history have done some very bad things. And a lot of Jews are put in these positions to run basically the porn industry, like this guy said they did back in 1933. Although that's, not to give him any credence. But it is true that Pornhub and OnlyFans are run by Jews. I think there's a reason for that. And it's not because Jews are degenerate, but because they're kind of put in those positions of power and they serve larger masters who lurk in the shadows somewhere. That'll be for a whole other episode. I just wanted to preface this. I doubt I know I have lots of Nazi followers on Instagram, and I do my best to piss them off. And I know my listeners are not Nazis, so I shouldn't worry. I'm just rambling at this point. I will say this, though. As a sort of idea of hope in the near future, I predict this. There will be a great schism. Not schism, a great schism. And that will be a Jewish schism between the Zionists and the anti-Zionists. And it's very important for us anti-Zionist Jews to make it very clear that we are completely different. I think there's been some bit of revising of Jewish history, that there is some sort of monolithic Jew, that this idea of a Jew has been uniform throughout history. That is not true. I mean, the German Jews hated the Russian Jews who came to the United States after their initial wave of immigration. The slur "kike" is a German slur for illiterate Russian Jews. So we've never gotten along. That's been obvious. And I think we have to kind of make it very clear that there isn't just a Jew. There are many Jews. It just so happens that the Jew that I'm going to tell you about in this episode, one of the bad ones.
I'm Chiquita Banana, and I've come to say bananas have to ripen in a certain way, and when they're flecked with brown and have a golden hue, bananas taste the best and are the best for you. You can put them in...
At my most cynical, there's this idea that the Dems don't want to be in charge for some of the coming horrors, particularly the migrant problem. The kids are still in cages. Biden has sided with conservatives on border policies. Even Obama was responsible for record deportation numbers, particularly those of the tens of thousands of Haitians that braved those waters to get here. He fucking booted them. He got rid of them. It's, again, don't forget these things, right? But Trump is pumping bloodlust into the mouths of Americans. They're just foaming, red foam. I see it. He started his campaign with hate, calling Mexicans rapists and murderers. And that's how he's going to finish his campaign. Every chance he got, he brought up the migrant crisis at the debate. And Biden did nothing to stop him. He even agreed. He was like, oh, that rape happened. Yeah, okay. Build that wall, baby. That's they don't really seem to disagree there. And even if they do build that wall, and there is a wall there, I'd like to... Did you know there's a wall at the border? Anyway, the migrants will not stop coming. And that's not because this is the greatest country on earth. It's because we ruined the countries that they're coming from. For hundreds of years now, the United States has wrought violence and unimaginable horrors on Central and South America. And the people who come from there are forced to spend tens of thousands of dollars and risk life and limb to get here, only to be these villains in our eyes, and of really sad and stupid people. To turn them away after burning down their homes, it doesn't sit well with me. Have you seen the videos of the Border Patrol that hike around the desert, finding cached water bottles and emptying them out? I mean, can you imagine having that fucking job? There are children, by the way. There are children who are braving the desert, and people leave water bottles near the border or on the way so that these people don't fucking die. And what we have Border Patrol do is empty out the bottle. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's also strange to me that a lot of those Border Patrol agents are first-gen immigrants from Mexico or other Central and South American countries. Now, there is something so corrupting about becoming an American. That once you cross that border, you are infected with this kind of fear. That's scarcity mentality. There was a Fox News interview recently at the Texas border of recent migrants who are crossing. There's Biden's border. He just wants these people to come in here and vote for him. And so this anchor is there, fear mongering as they do, and everyone's polite, really. They talk to, and he speaks to this one Turkish man who has just crossed over, like minutes into the United States, and as his feet touched American soil, he turned into a true American. He started to warn Fox viewers of the dangers of immigrants coming into our country.
Did you have to pay a cartel? Yes,
How much?
around 10,000.
10,000?
Yes. In fact, the American people is right, completely true. Who come into this country, they don't know. Well, okay, I'm good, but how if they're not good? How they're killer, psychopath, else? No guarantee of that. Why, no security, no security check, no background check.
No security check, no background check. You're worrying about who's crossing the border?
Yes. Of course, me, because I'm like, people are not look normal.
That's got to be the world record for the fastest assimilation to American culture I've ever seen. The saddest joke of all is that the migrants aren't going to stop coming. In spite of how horrible we treat them, in spite of how costly it is, in spite of how dangerous it is for the families who are left behind, who are frequently held hostage. I've heard stories of a lot of migrant workers here who don't have the $10,000 it costs to take a coyote to the United States, and so they take a loan of sorts, right? They pay in installments, probably more than $10,000 at that point, and if they don't pay, some bad shit happens to their family they left behind. The joke, of course, is that the American economy has, and always will be built on the backs of cheap labor. We need them, and we need to punish them for it on top of it. We are resentful for our need. It must be. I always hear a kind of begrudging respect from some blue-collarish conservatives, this respect they have for the migrant workers that they've known, because, oh boy, do they work hard. Can't get a white boy to do that. And yet they still want their blood. So in the end, Biden and Trump, they really do have the same policies by and large. But Trump will need to satisfy the bloodthirst. He will need to make shows of violence.
We must institute the death penalty. It's actually an act of kindness and a powerful death penalty. We will put this on. We have to bring in the death penalty if we want to stop.
I wouldn't be surprised by public executions or extrajudicial violence that goes unpunished or even pardoned. We already saw Texas Governor Greg Abbott pardon that freak Daniel Perry. He was that guy in 2021, I think. He was jailed for 25 years for shooting dead a protester in Austin, Texas at a BLM march. But it's not bad all the time, folks. It's not always bad, I promise. Julian Assange, I'm going to say Assange, was freed. I was certain he was going to be left for dead. Apparently, the U.S. justice system, instead of having him murdered, they could have executed him for treason here in the United States, even though he's an Australian citizen. They decided to cut a deal with him because had they gone to court, all the crazy plans to murder Assange would have come to light. Yeah, that's right. The Trump administration plotted to assassinate Assange should he escape from the Ecuadorian embassy. This was back in 2017. Mike Pompeo, who was the CIA director, and his top officials were furious about WikiLeaks, particularly the publication of Vault 7. I don't know if I've ranted about Vault 7 before, and I joke about how I'll never get in a Tesla because of Vault 7, or really any car that can be taken over by a computer. Basically, Vault 7 is a CIA hacking tool that allows it to backdoor any device. Like your phone, your computer, your car, your dishwasher. The CIA could fuck with you and shrink your clothes, I guess. I don't know. But it was considered at the time the biggest data loss in its history. And so a lot of senior officials inside the CIA went as far to request sketches or options for killing Assange. And apparently there seemed to be no boundaries. They were willing to do some kooky shit, including kidnapping Assange, who was in London at the time at the Ecuadorian embassy. They were going to do things as dumb as just like leaving a door open and being like, oh, what do you know? We can go in. There were talks of poisoning him. There was even a plot, I believe, to shoot down an airplane should he get on one. The CIA admitted that the only reason they actually didn't go through with these plans was because it was in a first world country, and had it been in a third world country, and this is a quote, this isn't Pakistan or Egypt, we're talking about London, they would have gone through with it. I'm a little disappointed that there hasn't been more coverage on Assange's liberation. It's a big deal that he got let go. It wouldn't portend well for journalists or data leakers or whistleblowers or anybody had he been tried in the United States and convicted and potentially killed. There was a lot more sanctimoniousness around Navalny. In fact, there was a recent Daily Show episode, and I watch it very rarely. Do not give me a hard fucking time for watching the Daily Show, where they were wishy-washy on Assange's release. They didn't celebrate it. They're like, oh, maybe he's a bad guy. I don't know.
Assange, celebrated by some as a hero, reviled by others as a reckless vandal, published state secrets of country after country, none more damaging than the vast trove of U.S. classified documents WikiLeaks posted online starting in 2010, at the height of U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's right. WikiLeaks founder and man who looks like he feeds James Bond to sharks, Julian Assange, is out of prison. Let's be honest, a lot of the stuff he leaked, we already knew. America was doing bad shit in Iraq. The DNC was in cahoots with Hillary's campaign. It's like how you kind of already knew that your wife was banging her tennis instructor, but it's nice to have it confirmed. By the way, in that example, I'm the tennis instructor. Now, some people think Assange is a villain for revealing state secrets, while others argue that the states shouldn't have had those secrets in the first place. But what irks me about Assange is that he didn't reveal any of the secrets I wanted to know. He's going to dump literally millions of documents and not a single one was about aliens or who killed JFK or why they never made a Forrest Gump sequel. I mean, I don't want 10 Fast and Furious sequels. I want to see Forrest Gump accidentally invent the Macarena, right? Yeah.
Meanwhile, they shed all kinds of crocodile tears for Alexei Navalny, the Russian opposition figure who Putin probably killed, maybe? I don't know. It should be noted that Navalny, the liberal darling, only because he opposes Putin, happens to be a rabid Islamophobe and a right-wing nationalist who courted serious Nazi factions in Russia. So I don't know why they wouldn't show the same love for Assange. But in other good news, and this is good news, okay? A federal jury in Florida says that the fruit giant Chiquita Banana is liable for killings between 1997 and 2004 by a Colombian right-wing paramilitary group that Chiquita, the banana company, gave millions of dollars to. Even though the U.S. State Department said, yeah, they're terrorists. You can't do that. So, all right, hold on, folks. Hold on real tight. I'm about to take you down a banana boat ride with some wild twists and turns. And after you hear all this, you will never, ever allow a vegan to moralize to you again. Bananas turn out to be some pretty rotten fruit, responsible for the death and sterilization of millions of people. And would you be surprised that bananas helped create the state of Israel?
Daylight come and one go home. Work all night on a drink of rum. Daylight come and one
stack banana till the morning come.
Back in June, a Florida jury in a federal court awarded the families of 8 men killed by the AUC, the Autodefensas Unidas de Colombia, like my accent, the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, a State Department designated terrorist organization, right-wing paramilitary in Colombia. They decided that Chiquita Brands were liable for these killings, having paid millions of dollars to the terrorist group between the years of 1997 and 2004. Of course, Chiquita Banana is appealing. Okay, I'm not trying to make a joke here. I'm not, okay, there is no purposeful banana puns henceforth, okay? If they happen, they're entirely incidental. Okay, so back to the story. Chiquita claimed that they were being blackmailed to protect their workers, that they weren't paying the paramilitary organizations these millions of dollars to do their bidding. Rather, they were just, trying to protect their property, their workers. That's still illegal. And what's also kind of funny is Chiquita seemed to be more than happy to help smuggle weapons aboard their cargo ships and provide these weapons to the terrorist organization. They failed to kind of explain that. Now, while this is good news, we are holding these companies accountable for their crimes. I say good news with an asterisk the size of the Panama Canal, because the banana industrial complex is so sinister and powerful, they appear untouchable. Too banana to fail. In fact, back in 1977, the chemical, I don't even know how to pronounce this, dibromochloropropane. Dibromochloropropane. I'm going to call it DBCP. It's an active ingredient in the pesticide Nemagon, which was a pesticide to get rid of nematodes. Don't get me started on nematodes. I hate those fucking things. But it was banned in 1977 in the United States after it was found to have caused sterility among thousands of male workers who were exposed to it at the Dow, Shell, and Occidental plants across America. Great, victory, no more chemicals, right? Yeah, that's not how it worked. They moved it to a third world country, Nicaragua in particular, where they happened to sterilize entire villages in the couple of years they used it there. It gave them all kinds of cancer too, and it wasn't until the Sandinistas came in and kicked out the banana company that they would stop using this horrifying chemical. Decades later, Nicaraguan courts found Dow and Dole banana liable. It wasn't really hard to find. They made it quite clear they knew what they were doing and they just didn't care. The evidence was damning. There was even some correspondence between Dow and Dole executives that revealed they knew exactly what was going on. And in fact, one of the executives said they have a population problem anyway. So you got to wonder how that guy sleeps at night. Or a woman. Who knows? But the company refused to pay. We are based in the United States. You have no jurisdiction, they claimed. When the case was brought to a U.S. federal court, the U.S. judge would eventually throw out the case and the $97 million awarded to these victims, saying that the Nicaraguan proceedings were biased against the companies. Again, in 2009, a Californian judge threw out separate lawsuits brought in the United States against Dow and Dole after ruling that the plaintiffs and their lawyers used fraudulent tactics, including faked sterility tests and plaintiffs who never worked on banana plantations. However, there's very considerable evidence that these counter lawsuits were entirely cooked up by Dow and Dole. They smeared these attorneys and the victims as phonies, and the judge, to quote unquote protect the identities of these people who stood up and said, "Oh yeah, we were paid actors to protect their identities," they sealed it shut permanently. So we'll never be able to know the truth about this. And as a consequence, not a single dollar has been rewarded to any of the victims. So yeah, who knows if this latest verdict will stick at all.
Refugee education number 1. Here we go. Banana.
So I made a joke about the Chiquita verdict back in June. It came out the same day as the Hunter Biden guilty verdict for possession of a gun as a convicted pedophile, was it? I can't remember what it was, for drugs. So I made a meme, as I do. And, okay, bear with me here as I explain a joke. There is a image that is frequently put up, an anti-Semitic image, and it's of a Hasidic Jew kind of standing sneakily next to a wall with one of those giant old cell phones. And the joke has always been like, release the whatever, like to like distract people from what's going on. So what I did was I turned the Jew into a Jewish banana from a cartoon banana. And it said, release the Hunter Biden verdict. Stupid joke. It's meant to like make fun of Jewish conspiracies. I don't know. I shouldn't have to explain jokes. But anyway, someone asked me in the comment section why I had to turn this into something Jewish. As a Jew, I don't like to have to explain myself. I don't feel like I should have to explain myself, but I kind of felt compelled to show that there was probably some not great actors from my tribe involved in this. And, oh boy, it is way worse than I thought it would be. So as an aside, I want to make it clear, I don't take any pleasure in learning about how some Jewish guy has a hand in something bad. You know, every time I read about some sort of financial conspiracy or child sex trafficking case, I close my eyes, I cross my fingers, and I say a little mantra. Please don't be Jewish. Please don't be Jewish. Please don't be Jewish. Well, I didn't get my wish this time because there are some Jews involved in these banana shenanigans. Let me introduce you to Mr. Sam Zemurray. He's also known as Sam the Banana Man. Zemurray is basically like if Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood dealt in fruit instead of oil. I almost did the I drink your banana milkshake. Sorry. I won't say drainage as much as I want to right now. Zemurray, a Russian Jew who arrived in America in 1891 when he was just 14 years old, would become one of the wealthiest men in the world for a period of time. But his banana empire is built on blood. He is responsible for overthrowing the Honduran government. In 1911, he basically made a naval fleet of mercenaries and overthrew the democratically elected president of Honduras and replaced him with a dictator who said, yeah, you don't have to worry about ever paying taxes ever again. You're good. Don't worry. He also famously convinced the U.S. government to get the CIA to overthrow Jacobo Arbenz in Guatemala in 1953, 4? I don't have my notes. But that was actually, I will say, the Guatemalan coup was my entrance into Latin American Revolution. My high school history teacher, Mrs. Resendes, had us read this book called Bitter Fruit, which wasn't particularly radical, but it did introduce me to Latin American Revolution and is part of the reason why I ended up living in Nicaragua and Cuba for a little while. It's also part of the reason why Fidel didn't want to initially be identified as a communist, because Zamuri hired this other guy whose name escapes me right now, but he's another Jew. God damn it, right? Fuck. To create this propaganda campaign to convince not just the United States, but the people of Guatemala themselves that there's some sort of communist takeover in their country. So basically, since then, Guatemala has been a fucking mess. And there's probably millions of deaths as a consequence. I mean, they're still uncovering these mass graves. It's just been one civil war after another since Arbenz. And I won't get too deep into Guatemala and Arbenz and Zamuri. Suffice to say, you go to hell for something like that. He also, Zamuri, delivered the needed votes for the partition of Israel. Which, God, can you believe that Israel exists because of bananas? Anyway, the first president of the state of Israel, Chaim Weizmann, sent a telegram to Zamuri to secure the needed votes for the 1947 UN partition of Israel that paved the way for Israel's declaration of independence the following year. The story goes that Zamuri was so powerful that all he had to do, he just picked up the phone and he called the leaders of Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Colombia, and Honduras and said, yeah, you're going to vote for Israel's partition. So Zamuri holds high esteem in the eyes of Zionist Jews. Also, for whatever reason, Indian guys on Twitter, like I found these Twitter threads that were basically like copy paste, and they were all glorifying the entrepreneurial spirit of Sam, the Banana Man Zamuri. Now, Zamuri died in 1961. He was just barely alive for the United Fruits Company's involvement in the Bay of Pigs fiasco. That's when the company lent 2 of its freighters to the CIA for use during the unsuccessful invasion of Cuba. Zamuri wasn't in charge. He would die several months later. But you can tell that, it shouldn't be surprised then that corporations, U.S. corporations, and the Central Intelligence Agency have had and will always have an incredibly cozy relationship. Zamuri's death wouldn't end Zionist involvement in banana republics, however. After Zamuri came Eli Black. He was a Wall Street goon, and he took over United Fruit in 1970, promising windfalls of cash for his investors. Well, 4 years later, he'd jump out of a 44-story window in Manhattan. In fact, there's a scene in the Coen Brothers movie, The Hudsucker Proxy. Good Jews, mind you. I have to remember to remind everybody. There's some good Jews out there. The Coen Brothers, probably their worst movie, The Hudsucker Proxy. There's that scene of the guy who jumps out the window. Supposedly, it's inspired by Eli Black's quote-unquote suicide. So what happened was the company hit some financial dire straits when Hurricane Fifi, which we really got to toughen up hurricane names because Fifi is just, come on, you can't strike fear in the hearts of people when like Fifi beats your ass or whatever. Fifi flattened the fields where the fruit grew, and the taxes, particularly in Honduras, had skyrocketed. So United Fruit was in some trouble. And in order to fix things, Black did what United Fruit had always done. He oversaw a bribe to the Honduras economic minister to the tune of $1.25 million. Well, he got caught. Or so the story goes. And what he would do is take his attaché case and smash open the skyscraper window and jump to his death. Now, I don't know anything about windows, skyscraper windows, whatever, but I can't help but imagine that it would be pretty tough, unless they're shitty, faulty. It'd be pretty tough to bust open a window. And I don't know who knows, but he died. and they ruled it a suicide. But the more interesting component of Eli Black's life is Eli Black's son. Now, Eli Black was a Zionist, not particularly noted. I did read that he, the day before he died, was grumbling about the state of Israel. I didn't find out about precisely what, but you know, if you're on Wall Street and you're a Jew, chances are fan of Israel. But his son, Leon Black, would avenge the family name by becoming a Wall Street billionaire. He was the CEO of private equity giant Apollo Global Management. Now, you might recognize Mr. Leon Black from the Epstein flight logs. He paid Epstein $158 million for, quote, tax and estate management. He also was accused of raping a teenager with Down syndrome, amongst a whole host of other, scandalous, awful behavior. And yes, he gives Israel a lot of money. I think he probably paid for my birthright trip. I'm not done yet, though, because after Eli Black's tragic death, the company was sold to another Zionist, Howard Milstein of the NYC real estate magnate Milsteins, the Milstein family. I don't know too much about Milstein, but when I saw that name, I was like, oh my, this is even closer to home. Because I think it's his niece, Gloria Milstein Flanzer, has a building with her name just down the street from me. The Flanzers in Sarasota, Florida, are this Jewish philanthropic family. They founded, I think the JCC or whatever. I almost wrote a story about her grandson. I'm going to do a quick aside about this because I never got to tell this story. It's a funny one. Her grandson was a fucking loser. He was this dweeby Jewish kid who wanted to be a gangster. And so he started dressing the part. He started slinging drugs around town. And he had a lot of guns. He got taken. Some dude scammed him out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he lived, the guy who scammed him, in a condo just by the water in downtown Sarasota. Well, the young Flanzer decided that he would dress up like a security guard and go get his money back. So he put on, a black suit, whatever, bulletproof vest, had guns, went to the guy's apartment, and wasn't home. So he decided to shoot down the door. He quickly realized that the door was bulletproof. You can't bust down that door as easily as Eli Black busted open that skyscraper window. Subsequently, there would be a 3-hour standoff with the SWAT team in the lobby of this condo building. Can you guess how many days in jail the young Flanzer spent? Fucking 0. He was shipped off to some rehab facility in California. I wanted to write a story comparing the way that our judicial system treats this rich kid versus the way it treats poor kids in town. I never got to write that story. Not yet. We'll see. Anyway, United Fruit, which changed its name to Chiquita Banana in 1984, wasn't always run by Jewish Zionists. It was also run by Midwestern Protestant Zionists. In 1984, Carl Linder Jr. became the controlling investor of Chiquita. But despite not being one of the chosen people, he continued Chiquita's bloody corporate practices and continued to support the state of Israel. Although Linder was a devout Baptist, he was considered as one of the largest non-Jewish donors to the organized Jewish community in the United States. In 1978, he was named the Man of the Year by the United Jewish Appeal. I'm still waiting for mine, Man of the Year, anyway. And later, he was named a recipient of the Tree of Life Award for the Jewish National Fund, and was recognized as the largest non-Jewish purchaser of Israel bonds. So, there you go. Now, there are endless horror stories of the banana industrial complex. I didn't really even get into the 1928 banana massacre in Ciénaga, Colombia. This is where the workers started to revolt against United Fruit's practices. United Fruit turned these entire towns into company towns and made the people, they wouldn't even pay these people in money. They paid them in vouchers and made them use their commissars or whatever you call them. And the workers started to organize and said, no, fuck that. we deserve better rights. And they were kind of asking for just fucking peanuts, really. But they couldn't have that. United Fruit couldn't have that. So they told their buddies over in the United States, hey, we got some fucking commies, trying to fucking mess up our shit in Colombia. So the United States reached out to the Colombian government and said, you better put this down before we come in there and put it down ourselves and start accusing you of being a communist, like they later would to Arbenz. Well, the Colombian military decided to station gunners on the top of roofs for a big political rally in Ciénaga, Colombia, where over 30,000 people showed up. It was just after Mass, and they're all in the streets, and they're like camped out there. Like these families came to support the cause, to better their lives. Well, before the event even got started, the military said, you have 5 minutes to leave. 30,000 people leaving these streets, it's not possible in 5 minutes. So they opened fire, and they just shot everyone. So the Colombian military said, oh, we killed 47 people. No big deal, right? 47 peaceful protesters. Come on. The number's probably closer to 3,000. So yeah, 100 years later, Chiquita Banana would end up paying $38.3 million to the descendants of the people they killed in Colombia, I'm sure. Justice, right? I love that. The arc of justice, the arc of the universe bends towards justice, right? Sure. There's a whole, God, I could do 10 hours on banana stuff. Did you know that the Dulles brothers were heavily invested in United Fruits? Yeah, well, no conflict of interest there, I'm sure. What a relief that the Dulles brothers, not Jewish, right? Thank you. I also, speaking of the Dulles brothers, did you see that the New York law firm Sullivan and Cromwell said that they would not hire pro-Palestinian protesters? Boo, right? Well, the funny thing about Sullivan and Cromwell, who the Dulles brothers worked for, they represented the United Fruit Company during the coup in Guatemala, amongst other things. Sullivan and Cromwell is a funny bit of like neoliberal nonsense. Like liberals would love them because did you know that they were the first to hire like a Jewish lawyer and a black lawyer? Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah, they also represented I.G. Farben during World War II and helped create Zyklon B. Yeah, they love Jews, I'm sure. So yeah, I guess to wrap things up, I guess I would just say there are zero principles here, only dollars. And it doesn't matter if you're a WASP or a Zionist Jew. This disease of money infects anybody. And so the nightmare Ouroboros continues. It's not enough for us to destroy these people's homes. For a century, for the better part of a century, we have we've created nightmares, living nightmares for totally innocent people. Just trying to live for fucking bananas that you let rot anyway. Bananas aren't even good for you. Did you know that? They have a very high glycemic index. So to turn away at the border and to wish violence upon them, these people who are coming, they are the direct descendants of the same people we killed for banana money. What the fuck?
Oh, yes! We have no bananas. We have no bananas today. We got string beans and onions and big juicy lemons and all kinds of fruit and say, we've got an old-fashioned tomato, a Long Island potato. Oh, yes. We have no bananas. We have no bananas today. There's a fruit man on our street whose name is Mr. Pete, and he keeps good things to eat, but you should hear him speak. When you ask him anything, he never answers no. He just yeses you to death, and then he takes your dough. Oh, yes! We no got the banana. We no got the banana today. We got a little beans and the bigger beans and the red, the beans and the white, the beans and all kinds of beans, and say we got the old-fashioned salami. We even got the Brooklyn pastrami. Oh, yes. We no got the banana. We no got the banana today. Got so good with him, he rode home to say, send Pasquale, Nick, and Jim, I need help right away. When he got them in the store, there was fun, you bet. Someone asked for bananas, and then the whole quartet. Oh yes, we have no bananas. We have no bananas today.
We have bananas.
And the carrots.
And celery. And olives.
But we got no bananas today.
Who asked you for bananas anyway? Who asked you? I only want a hot dog sandwich. Hot dogs are better than bananas. I always say, ain't it?
Oh, yes. We have no bananas.
We have no bananas.